In honor of food and love and food, I present to you date night meals.
Date night meals.
You don't have to be in a relationship to cook a date night meal. If anything, you should love yourself. Cook for yourself. But this particular time, this meal is inspired by the celebrity couple.
Addison Rae and Bryce Hall. Check me out. How's my dice roll? Listen, you have to know who they are. They have millions of followers across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. They're probably the most popular couple on the internet today. So what could Bryce make for Addison that she would absolutely love? Well, I went to her Twitter to do some research. She's definitely a foodie. She actually tweeted about chicken and waffles several times. Bryce, you gotta hook her up with some homemade chicken and waffles. So let's get into it. I am cutting some ham into small cubes. Now you may be wondering, what does ham have to do with chicken and waffles? Stick with me. When I went to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in Los Angeles, I went crazy. Not only did I have the chicken and waffles, but I also had macaroni and cheese and collard greens. So the ham is for the collard greens. I have a bunch of collard greens and you have to remove the stem. You can either use a sharp knife and cut the stem out, or you can pick it off with your hands. It's just in the middle. Whichever way works better for you is the way you should do it. Once you have all your greens picked, let's start on the broth. In a large stock pot on medium heat, I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil, 1 diced shallot, and all of the cubed up ham. To that, I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of chicken bouillon powder and 10 cups of water. Stir that mixture all together and bring it to a simmer. While that mixture is heating up and getting to know each other, we're gonna wash our collard greens. It's very important that you wash them well. My tip for cleaning collard greens is in a clean sink, fill it halfway with water. Add in your collard greens, add in about a tablespoon of vinegar and a tablespoon of lemon juice. Then you wanna rub the collard greens in your hands together to remove any dirt. Take your clean greens and add them to the broth. I'm also adding half of a diced white onion. Let this cook low and slow from anywhere from 1 hour up to 6 hours. The longer you let it cook, the better it will taste. Don't worry about seasoning it right now because you will season it later on. When I first started this recipe, I cut up a whole chicken, got those 8 pieces, and I fried them up. But as I was plating it up, I was like, this isn't really perfect for a date night meal.
Date night meals.
What I like about the chicken tenders is there's no bones. You don't have to pick it up by your hand. You can easily use a fork and knife to be nice and proper for date night. Let's get into how I made the chicken. I'm starting off with 4 chicken breasts and I'm gonna cut each breast into thirds. If you have any extra skin, fat, or tendons left on the chicken, make sure you trim that off. It's time to season it. Now you know we're gonna season this well. Of 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika, 2 tablespoons of white pepper, 2 tablespoons of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, and 1 tablespoon of salt. Now don't worry, after you mix the chicken together, you're gonna see a bunch of seasoning at the bottom. That's because we're gonna add in 1 quart of fresh buttermilk. After you add the buttermilk, get in there again with your hand, mix it all together. You'll see the buttermilk start to change color. I'm also gonna add in 2 tablespoons of fresh Worcestershire. You get the picture. Leave her in. You know what it is. Here's the bad news. You can't fry this chicken right away. You have to let it sit in that buttermilk marinade for at least 1 hour and up to overnight. It's time to season our greens. First, you want to taste them. It should have plenty of salt from the chicken bouillon powder and the ham, but if it needs more salt, add salt to taste. What I'm adding in right now is sugar. I'm adding in about 2 to 3 tablespoons of sugar. The sugar will balance out the slight bitterness of the greens and make it perfect. Let's get started on the perfect waffle. You know the ones that are crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside. We're gonna use the Belgian waffle technique to accomplish this. Take 2 eggs and separate the yolk and egg white. To the egg yolks, I'm adding 1/3 cup of vegetable oil, 2 cups of buttermilk, and a splash of vanilla. Mix that together and move on to the egg whites. If you have a stand mixer, you should use it. If not, just use your arm strength and you need to whip those egg whites into stiff peaks. You can do it, I believe in you. For the dry mix, I'm mixing together flour, cornstarch, baking powder, baking soda, salt, and sugar. I have the measurements on the screen. Also, I have the full written recipe on my Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram yet, what are you doing? Come on, be a star. Go follow me on Instagram. Once you have your dry batter mixed together well, it's time to add the wet to the dry. Slowly pour in your egg yolk and buttermilk mixture. Not the egg whites, the egg yolk and buttermilk mixture. After that is well incorporated, you want to gently fold in the egg white. Now, you may be thinking, how do I know my batter is right? Well, you don't want your batter to be too loose and you don't want it to be too thick. So if you find it too thick, you can add in a little bit more buttermilk. If you find it too loose, you can add in a bit more flour. Get ready to fry your chicken. I have a 3-to-1 ratio of flour to cornstarch. To that, I'm seasoning it with black pepper and salt, about a tablespoon each. Mix it together well and move on to taking your chicken tenders out of the buttermilk marinade. You want to dry it off well. Very important that you dry the chicken off well. That way when you flour the chicken, it sticks to the chicken. Let's go ahead and flour the chicken. While we do that, make sure your oil is preheating to 325 degrees. Now you can use a deep fryer, you can use a cast iron skillet or a heavy bottom pot. Just make sure you fill it with the appropriate amount of oil. I use the peanut oil and canola mix, but you can use whatever frying oil you prefer. Make sure there's enough oil in there to completely cover the chicken. It makes this process a lot easier, but be careful that your oil will not overflow. Once all the chicken is floured, your oil should be ready to go. Carefully place your chicken tenders into the hot oil and let it cook for 6 to 8 minutes or until it reaches an internal temperature of 165 degrees. Once it is cooked, remove it from the hot oil and set it to the side. You're on the home stretch. All you have to do now is cook the waffles. I'm using an old-fashioned waffle iron to cook my waffles. I thought it was cool. I don't know why. But if you have a waffle maker, go ahead and use it. Just follow the directions on the device and cook your waffles. Let me give you some advice. You may be watching this and think, wow, this is a lot of work for one dish for date night. And you're kind of right. Here's my advice. If you're gonna make this for date night, I would suggest making the collard greens the day before or even a couple days before. You can easily reheat those the day of. Not only can you cook the collard greens early, you can also cook the chicken tenders early. Do those the morning of or a few hours before. You can reheat those in the oven or you can flash fry them to bring them back up to temperature. However, be sure to cook the waffles a few minutes before because nobody likes soggy waffles. If you like soggy waffles, you're despicable. I'm sorry, that's me. Now when you serve this dish, make sure you have some hot sauce on the side. This is actually the perfect combination. If you've never had chicken and waffles, the spicy, sweet, it's such a great combination. You need to make this for date night or even for yourself. Like I said, you don't have to be in a relationship to cook a date night meal. Treat yourself nicely. This is delicious and cook it with love. She asked me if I do this every day. I say often.